A well-functioning research group or research network is the very backbone of the research activity at NTNU. But how do you make a well-functioning research environment in your group? That is what we'll talk about today. Welcome to the Science Conversations at NTNU. With me today are three very interesting persons who would like to share their experiences with you. Asta Håberg. You are a professor at the Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences. And for the moment, you are both head of a research group and you are the director of a Center for Research-Based Innovation.
That's correct.
What is a good research environment to you?
It's an environment that I look forward to going to work every day and that I have fun at work.
And hopefully that the others in your group feel the same.
Yeah, and being able to pick up so that you're ensuring that everyone, at least at part of the day, it's fun.
Asgeir Sørensen, you're a professor at the Faculty of Engineering and head of a Center of Excellence consisting of several research groups. Before you became a professor, you worked several years outside of academia. Do you recognize some of the same mechanisms in the groups inside and outside of academia, or are they different?
There are a lot of similarities, and I have a background first in industry from a huge international company, ABB, which was extremely well structured, large budgets, and also pretty clear definition of what is the deliverables. That was products, services, and you have to maintain that within given budgets, but also there we needed to define something we do also in research. What is our core knowledge, core business, but we have to keep on the radar what is enabling technologies, what is emerging markets or business potential. So I think that is something, the way you structure it is that. But what is really common is that I learned very fast that knowledge is creating power. Competence is creating power, and by chasing that, you could actually create a competitive edge. And that is something I also brought with me back to NTNU.
So you'd say that the knowledge from the individual combined with knowledge of the others gives even more power then?
Definitely, and that has actually been a huge inspiration also for me, and where I also see that, you have to go together. You will never win alone, not at all. So, that has also been the setup for what we have done at NTNU, and how are we building teams and teams of teams, and mobilizing across colleagues, both at NTNU but also internationally, to create an impact.
So, collaboration within research can be very many things, and Elin Angelo, you're a professor of music education at the Faculty of Social and Educational Sciences. You don't work with the traditional type of research groups, do you? Could you tell us a bit about how you organize collaboration, cooperation?
Yes, we are establishing several research groups and some research networks. It's a growing interest and tradition within our fields. And a very important task is to make co-supervision teams, co-editors, co-leadership, as a supporting community where you are together and where you support and get supervised along the whole way to become a full professor and learn to write application, use internal and external funding systems. Yes, all the things that you have to do after.
Asgeir talked about knowledge as power. Asta, how do you sort of create the knowledge of the participants in your group?
As Asgeir was alluding to, it's very important that you recognize that you need a bigger team, and that in that bigger team that there are people with different strengths, different types of knowledges, different abilities, and also that you have a variety of you have the core knowledge, like academic skills, but you also need other skills, for example, skills. Some people are better at expressing themselves, and writing. Some people are better at presenting at conferences. And you need this totality in order to succeed, because you can not only be good at writing applications or only be good at writing reviews. In order to succeed, you need to be able to get funding. You need to be able to structure that funding so that you have the right kind of infrastructure, the right kind of people, and you need to be able to follow people through so that they're actually achieving both their individual goals and the overarching goal for your group.
So as a leader, you have a lot of things to think about and coordinate. How do you work with this in your groups, Asgeir?
I think I experienced the same, because one thing is that you have to first of all attract money in order to have the funding, and you are going in steps also from a very early career where you are a little bit on your own. But if you are a part of a bigger community, you in a way are building on that and taking that culture up. And so a lot for me as well is also to in a way let the people to really succeed in their own work. And how as a leader, I'm thinking, okay, what could I do as a leader to enable people to be inspired, to get self-confidence, but also having control mechanism that we are delivering results of high quality, actually. So it's about creating an environment for performance. And what I find very exciting in this group here we also have from musicians or people working with musics, but I also have experience from sports. And there is a lot of comparison about how could you make a good performance, and by transferring experience and knowledge from one field to another one. Yeah. So that's what I'm very excited also
yeah.
to learn from her.
Yeah. Please tell us. Please tell us.
Yeah. One thing I'm thinking about is that in music and perhaps also in sports, it's very the tradition is that you are on your own very much. You are, of course, you play together, but when you get to when you come into a master course, for example, or a PhD course, you have your own project which you work with your supervisor. But by creating a community here, you're always you can also feel welcome to knock on the door to another colleague and ask questions and find fellow researchers and at both junior and senior levels that are interested in the same things as you, and it gets much stronger. So to make some collaboration and some teams and teams of teams in these areas, it's I think it's a quite new tradition. At least within music, we have several research networks working very well across both Norway and internationally, but it's still in regard to in this context, it's a quite new tradition.
Asgeir, you had a comment?
Yeah, I think so, because when we are trying to attract also young people to become researchers and going for a PhD postdoc, many of those are afraid for being alone, and that you'll be sitting on your own office. And I think those groups are not really functional. Of course, there is a lot of individual work, but it is actually the research environment that are making the big results together. And I often used to say that your most important supervisor is probably your colleague, PhD or postdoc, if you are on that race. Of course, professors are contributing, but it is the group and the daily work and how you could actually learn from each other, which is the secret. Yeah.
Asta, we've talked about now how sort of individuals are blended into a group and the feeling of not being alone. What kind of measures do you take to create a good environment in your group?
I think it's important that you actually address this, that you actually talk about first that it is common to feel alone, and that to feel that you're struggling and that is okay, but that you should actually talk to people and not be afraid to share that, because a lot of PhD students and postdoc feel that it's their failure, that there's a failure on their part, which it's not. And as a supervisor, you also need to figure out whether you could actually, there are some measures that you could take. For example, does the student need additional resources in order to succeed, or does it need just a little bit more help for a certain project just to get past that uphill and kind of roll down on the other side and get some get things going. And that's one of the reasons why I think it's important that you actually have a physical environment where you can sit together, so that because as a supervisor you can observe your PhD students' demeanor, and it can tell you a little bit about how they're actually feeling, because everything is not expressed. I think that's, and in some places at NTNU it's not organized that way. The supervisors sit in a different location. I don't think that is a good, at least it wouldn't be ideal for me. Yeah, and I also think, as Asgeir said, it's really important that PhD students learn from each other. And I also think, as Elin was saying, that if you don't feel that you're getting the help that you need from your supervisor, I think that you should actually try to talk to someone else, and that it is actually allowable to get additional co-supervisor for a project, because supervisors might sometimes believe that they know more about a topic than they do, or the student might want to diverge into an area where that they feel is more aligned with their background, and that might not be in alignment with their supervisors, and then you need extra resources.
You had a comment on that, Asgeir?
Yes, I used to say to my PhD students, they know this for sure. First of all, if you have a supervision meeting, they may be confused, but afterwards we are saying, okay, are you still confused? Yes, I am, but on a higher level. but I think the whole point is actually that that if you're looking to the progress, is that first year probably the supervisor is having more knowledge in one field. I used to say that the second year I expect you as a PhD actually to beat me on that particular field. And the third year you should be better than me. But of course, as a supervisor and a group of supervisors, you know the process. You know also, you have a bigger view, so you could also connect new aspects into that. But I think it is that is actually quite essential. And since this is the case, you should go out and search for this knowledge. That is actually expected.
Yeah. Go on, Elin.
I also just wanted to comment, because at that time this PhD student will pause or go in other directions that the first one or the two persons who was connected as their supervisors, and then to feel welcome to find a colleague on the same corridor, or maybe different places, or a postdoc fellow, or to create an environment. But that also can be maybe challenging for the professors that feels that they are all of a sudden left out. And that, of course, we have this imposter syndrome that is everywhere. And if these things are not talked about, as you suggested, talk about it, make it a theme and a topic that we can discuss, and something that we can develop from in the group with the safety that we need.
So addressing the topic so that it's actually talked about and that you can act on it.
Yeah, we don't have to do everything as individuals.
Yeah, and I think this is one aspect for the PhDs, but also for the supervisors, because you, as a supervisor, could be uncertain as well. And I believe some of these people now listening to this talk are also quite new in this role. So it's like I used to call myself a PhD father, and there are some similarities on that, how you are growing up your own, you could say, PhD children, but at some point they are going to leave you, and they should. of course, you are collaborating with them, but they are in a way going their own tracks and paths, and so there is a lot of how are you creating new masters, because we are not creating assistants in this role of PhDs, and that is a lot of going back to history. How are you going to step out? And the same when you are saying goodbye to your children, actually. Well, not that goodbye, and that is actually the secret. You should maintain the contact, but they are making their own traces and career. Yeah.
Is this the way Is this the way the same way you think?
I think it's a quite well-known analogy that during those 3 years as a PhD student, the first year you're like your smaller kids, pre-teen, and they admire you, and at the second year they are the teenagers, and the teenager phase can last until the end of the PhD, and then your relationship will not end at a very positive note, but hopefully you get to the adult stage, and by the dissertation you have more of an adult relationship, and student can see you both for your good and not so good aspects.
Is that the same with your group? Do you recognize this?
Yes, I recognize it very much. But we have another challenge when we're talking about the small environments, and maybe particularly the social sciences and humanities. We have a lot of associate professors and people on the top with top competence that not have taken a PhD. Because we are following this førstelektor dosentløp, and some have earned their title on artistic backgrounds, and it's really important also to try to invite and involve the whole kollegae into this thinking, and how and also to invite how to some meta discussions about how do we want to proceed, what are our values, what do we want to earn, and how do we want to establish a community where these things are thematized and talked about.
We have gotten a video from a PhD candidate at the Faculty of Natural Sciences, Cathrine Solem, who wants to comment on this.
I think that for me, there are mainly 3 bullet points that can summarize what I, as a young researcher, appreciate in a good work environment. And the first one is that I appreciate the platforms where we can communicate, all from daily basis to annual formal meetings with all the people within the group. And that makes me also feel like I'm a part of a bigger team or the group, the research group. The second bullet point is that I think it is important that we are all reminded that we actually have quite a big responsibility as a part of the research group, doing and publishing high quality research. And as a young researcher, I have very much appreciated the open discussions that we can have of what we're doing, how we're doing it, why we're doing it. And that I think this also enhances the work that we're doing to be able to discuss openly about our research. The last but not least bullet point is that I think it's nice that we're all treated as individuals and that we can feel that our work matters, even if we are young and new in the game. And I like that we are allowed to develop personal skill sets. And by that, you also kind of develop as a member of the research group. And in a good work environment, I think it is important that you feel that you matter.
Thank you, Cathrine. Asta, you have been part of the course How to Survive Your PhD. And this, Cathrine talked about sort of the necessity of feeling the responsibility you have as part of a research group. How do the PhDs cope with that? I guess some think this is quite difficult.
I think that Cathrine was picking up on several points that other PhD students have discussed with me previously, like what is your role in the bigger picture, and getting credit for your role in the bigger picture, and also having the whole group seeing your contribution as an individual into the whole group's work, scientific work. And I think that coupling your individual work with being a part of a group and feeling that others are supporting you. And some people in certain parts of, or in certain research groups, they don't have that for various reasons. It can be because they are in a very small group, or for some reason they're doing their research at a remote location, or that there are some chemistry differences. And I think that it is the supervisor's obligation to deal with these things, even though it might be uncomfortable for the supervisor. But it is always the supervisor's obligation. It's not the fault of the PhD student.
So, but as a leader, you kind of supervise the supervisors. How can you help them, the supervisors, in this role as a leader? Yeah. Do you have any measures or tips?
I think there are several measures that are in place from NTNU's side, like, for example, the midway evaluation, and there are encouraging the supervisors to participate in supervising courses. But you also just need to you need to be there with the PhD candidates when they're presenting and their supervisors are there. You get the impression of how the group works together. And you also, what we do is that we have these PhD, like bigger PhD and postdoc lunches where everyone from different supervisors come together and we discuss different topics, for example, how to write your CV, or how to build an academic career, what are the problems that you can face, what is a good journal to publish in, just like little skills like that. And I think that also gives you, and then people feel like have the courage to come and ask you questions, and you can kind of pick up whether there is something maybe brewing under the surface.
Cathrine, she mentioned this being treated as an individual, but how does it work in a group? Because people are different. Is it okay as a leader to treat them differently? Yeah. How do you handle that?
Yes, go back to be a father again. If you are going, you have to treat them differently in order to bring everybody on up. And of course, as you feel as a supervisor and leader, is that almost every day, also as a supervisor and even an experienced one, I also see my own failures. And sometimes I see the success, but also my own limitations. But I think it is essential here, and because one thing is that you are going to follow a certain track and you are going to submit a certain number of publications as first author, and you should be co-author, and in a way you are delivering these expected results. But then I think what this is also about is that each of them need, or you're not going to be a copy of your supervisor or somebody else. Because I used to also to say this to any student at NTNU. You could be sure at NTNU you will meet people that are more clever, smarter than you. But you are still unique. So you have to find your own way in this, and also strengthen your skill set and your talents, and of course also work with your weak point in order to be a better version of yourself. And we are doing some also transferable skills training also in our research group. But I think we could have done more in order that in a way are also developing a broader picture of skill set in order for you to succeed both as a researcher but also when you are going out. Yeah, so it's we can improve on that, I think.
Elin, I guess that in your field of research it's quite traditional that every person feels like very independent. Do you take the measures to sort of make them less independent? Is that required in order to get this group feeling?
No, I don't. Well, the individual autonomy and ownership of one's own project is very, very important in this field, and also to be a part of the traditions as one has is attached to in any way. So that is important, but more on the next level, the supervisors of these different works and the communication between us. Talking about different, as you say, CV, how to write a CV or how to write an application, or discussing literature reviews, making a reading seminar, something that connects us and can bring us further and learn about each other's traditions. Because maybe the borders aren't as impossible to cross as we might think sometimes. And so to learn about the individuals in the group and what kind of background, what kind of tradition, what could they be interested in, and also time is precious. So to get people to engage in research network activity, it has to be something in it for them. So look into what could it be interesting to be a co-supervisor, to co-lead the group, to something. You had a comment, Asta?
Yeah, I was thinking about the feeling of being treated unfairly, and I would say that I have observed that in that is happening at NTNU. So PhD students shouldn't feel that this is something that they're the only one who are experiencing, but the problem is, how are we going to solve it? And what can we do to solve it? And I think that is very difficult. I think part of it is that supervisors kind of give you what you need and not what you want. So if you're very self-driven and very knowledgeable, you might get less than someone who they believe need a more close supervision. And that might be something that's not articulated, and you do not want to articulate as a supervisor. And then it is, this is something that I've seen many times. There is a middle-aged supervisor who sees someone that they believe is like a copy of themselves as a young supervisor, and they're thinking, oh, this is me, and I need to help that person so that this person really succeeds beyond what I did. And that person gets a lot of attention. And that's also something that I've seen across several groups. And I think that for the supervisor, we need to really consider our own biases and how we are treating people and how we are experienced by others, and try to look at ourselves from the outside.
Do you do that, Asgeir?
Yes, I'm trying to. But as I said, I think because we are speaking about here probably extreme performance or performance of very high level. You are going actually to do that, and that's where you have the similarities to sport and music. And sometimes you need also to have a really, I would say, reality check that even can hurt everybody. And if you're not willing to have these confrontations about quality standards, about how are you performing, you will actually not perform further. And I think this is about to always, I used to say, keep moving, and it means that you are learning from your failures, and you also are happy with your success. But it's about keep moving and looking for always. Improvements, and sometimes it may look a little bit scary, but I used also to say something I learned when I was in ABB: proud, yes; satisfied, never. So it's but on the other hand, if you are getting fueled and energized, that what is happening, and I must say also, the older I have been, the more and more fueled and energized I have been of people around me and seeing them succeeding. So I'm actually so that is, and then I really also understand something important, this is not it's not about me, and it's about a bigger society, a bigger group to take new positions, and to just look at that is actually giving a tremendous inspiration that we can make a change. And that was actually what brought me back to NTNU, because I realized from industry that if I'm going to really have a huge impact scaling up, this is to students, it's through PhDs, postdocs, colleagues. There you could actually live up to the vision. I was also participating on NTNU's vision, knowledge for a better world. So it's about to put this in a context. And so that is actually, and here the individual needs to find their place. And I think it's about also that you are showing your own weakness actually. So all my students know my weakness very well, and I'm not afraid to share them. And I just say make it better, and they do.
I'm happy to hear. We have gotten a video with a question from young researchers who is planning to move ahead. Espen Stabell, postdoc at the Faculty of Humanities.
Hi, my name is Espen Stabell. I'm a postdoc at the Department of Philosophy and Religious Studies here at NTNU. I've been part of an interdisciplinary research group for some years called the pilot program on deep sea mining here at NTNU. And yeah, the project has worked quite well. We're we have been about 10 PhDs and also postdocs and some more senior researchers. And the working environment has been generally very good, I would say. But there have been some challenges, and some of them have been related to the interdisciplinary aspect of the project. So everyone, at least the PhDs and postdocs, want and need to do excellent work within their field. And there's also strong incentives for this, because if you want to get into a good journal, you have to write good stuff in your field, and that's important for your career to get into the good journals. At the same time, a goal of the project has been to have more to have collaborations, interdisciplinary collaborations between very different fields such as engineering, biology, philosophy, history. And yeah, this has been challenging and has created some frustration, because it's in sort of in tension with the goals of the individual researchers. So yeah, I have an ambition or an aim to establish a research group, an interdisciplinary research group working at the intersection between philosophy and environmental studies sometime in the future. So my question to you is whether, if you have some experience with interdisciplinary research or research groups, if you have any advice or any thoughts on how to make these groups work well and to have the best working environment for these kinds of interdisciplinary groups which involves very different fields. So yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Espen. So Espen, he addresses some particular challenges that can be in interdisciplinary groups and asks for advice for someone planning to start an interdisciplinary group. Anyone? Do you have advice? Yeah, you all have. Okay, let's start with Asgeir.
Yeah, and because I think it's a very good question, and first of all, I could say that if you start at where I'm actually now, is that we have been successful in securing huge funding to huge centers again and again and again, simply because we have been able to combine in-depth with interdisciplinary approach, creating, as I said, this unique selling proposition, which is very hard to copy. But is it easy? No, not at all, because you're meeting different cultures, different traditions, different departments, and there are different models of how to do that. But going in that direction, I mean, you are creating something. Yeah, it's quite easy to create something new, because I used to say that if I'm going to succeed in a mathematician alone in one particular field, I'm not that clever, not at all. But if I'm able to combine different topics, systems of system and knowledge of knowledge, you could create this unique environment, and that is what I call the trailblazing, and you are really groundbreaking new results, and it's super exciting when we do that. And in Amos we have been chasing that, but you have to be patient, and you have to accept also that there are differences, and then stimulate. And here it is about mixing people. So we have been also on structured in a way, combining people and to let them to work together. And typically, if we go on research campaigns, you learn that you have to collaborate, and just by mixing people that together, new results are just popping out. And we have seen that the best results from Amos is where we actually have been successful in this interdisciplinary approach. Because I could also have given a long talk about what I mean is the pitfalls in academia, and that is ignorance, simply because the field is so huge, and you are so it's only my topic that matters. And the other one is arrogance, that what I do is the only important thing in this world, and those two issues is what I'm fighting as a leader. We don't accept ignorance and arrogance.
Do you recognize this, Elin?
Yes, very much. We have been to some research seminars this past few weeks, and those exact two words are coming again and again. Ignorance, yeah. Some can perhaps feel that this is not relevant for me, so I just skip it. Or arrogance, or they don't do the same as me, so I know better. But you also have one thing more, I would say, and that is fear. One can be afraid, especially some very exposed professions and vocations, like, for example, music, and where you perform something to give and to get feedback. It's not always welcomed, or you don't feel good enough. So be brave, and I think that that needs to be more than one alone. So for Espen, I would say to be brave, and I think it's a very interesting project between philosophy and the environment, and there are many many who would be interested in that, also from music and musicology and different disciplines, of course, but maybe also to make something, some short time goals. Make like an anthology or an application or a seminar series or something that is that is not so far away. So to make it a bit step by step, but I really agree with the two keywords you gave. Thank you.
You had a comment?
I think I would be a little bit more practical with my advice, and that is, as he was telling himself, that the PhD students have been very frustrated in this project, and I think as a leader and as a supervisor, you need to ensure that the PhD projects are actually doable by the PhD, and that might mean that you cannot do the most creative, cross-sectional, inclusive study for the PhD student. That might be the postdoc who's doing that study. So I think that for him planning his lab, he needs to consider who he will hire and what are the different tasks for the different levels. And I also think that it is quite difficult to do transdisciplinary work at the university because the way that the funding schemes, which is very allocated to your department and your faculty, which I would say can be a hindrance to really achieve good interdisciplinary research.
Thank you. Sort of to start summarizing some of the things that we have been talking about today, I would like to see a video we have gotten from a researcher at the Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences.
Morning, my name is Mattijs Elschot. I'm an associate professor here at the MR Cancer Group at ISB. I'm a co-lead of a team of about 10 to 15 people working on imaging of prostate cancer. So how would I define a good working environment? I think the most important thing of a good working environment, if you work in a team, that there is a sort of a sense of belonging, that everybody feels you're part of a team. So how would you achieve that? Well, you can think of a few things. I think it's important to stimulate within group collaboration, for example, by creating synergies between projects of individuals or by actively creating dependencies between projects. Availability of supervisors is important, both physically and on digital platforms. We have a great office space. I feel that really helps. We have an office space that sort of stimulates random meetings where you meet each other during lunch or coffee, or so that helps. What else? I think open communication is also very important. So you have to celebrate the good stuff, not only the big achievements, also the small achievements, and also openly discuss potential pain points that there are. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Matthias. So he talked about creating a sense of belonging, stimulate collaboration, create dependencies between projects, supervisor availability, creating meeting spaces, openly discuss potential and difficult issues. So it's quite, I believe it's quite rewarding but very hard work to be a group leader and a group participant if you want to have a group that really works well. We are approaching the end here. Asgeir, do you have a take-home message to the audience?
Yes, well, there could be many, but I think for all of us, you will meet numbers of dilemmas and challenges and achievements, and I think this is very much about to also know your own yourself, about your strength, weakness. And if you have a medal and the group have a medal, the backside is probably equally large. I think we should be aware of that. And I also think because many of us are in some type of extreme performance, and that means that you probably will face your, as I mentioned before, your limitations and borderlines. So the way you are in a way handling failures, because if you don't fail, you probably don't take enough risk. So the way you are failing and recovering from the failures and also creating energy for yourself and the group and how you are coming back, I think this is a matter of lifestyle. And I could, as getting closer to the 60s, I must say this type of life is super exciting. But it means that you need to take some consequences in order to also maintain this I would say hunger or eagerness after delivering. So just keep going. That's my final message. Don't turn back. Keep going.
Keep going.
Yeah.
We have heard about some challenges, possibilities and potential actions to take in order to create a good research environment in your group. thank you very much for all your contributions. And I hope that you all have learned something today and that you have gotten some inspiration and new ideas. See you again for the next science conversations in February. But until then, keep the conversation going. Thank you.